So I've got 18 thousandths, between 18 and 19 thousandths. The paperwork calls for 20. Half a thou off is not really going to hurt much. Once the engine starts up and the piston ring wears in and stuff after the first few weeks of riding, it's going to open up a little more. Like I said, most times 16 thousandths is good enough. So now I'm going to install the piston ring with lettering facing up. If you see lettering on both sides, just remember there's always going to be the letter N, as in Nebraska, on 90% of piston rings. That's what goes facing up. So I'll put the piston ring on, just like that. And then you want to have your gaps aligned away from each other. So I'm going to align this gap to the intake side. You can see there's a gap there. And then there's a ring gap, and there's a ring gap. I usually try to line those up like that. Say the piston goes in this way, I'm going to probably put it in from the clutch side. The circlip that's already going to be installed is going to be towards the stator. That's not a big deal. The best way, so if you ever fight with circlips, put one end in that little groove right there, and then work your way around while holding one side like this. So let's see if I can do this on camera without it flinging off. So basically you're using the bore of the circlip as a guide. You see how I'm doing that? And it just popped in. So you can see how I just got that popped in. And then go in here and then turn that to make sure it seats. Always turn the circlip so that way it's in there like that. Then double check your ring gaps. Like I said, I have the big ring, top ring, facing toward the intake valves, and then the oil scraper rings are facing towards the exhaust side. So now, assuming this is how the cylinder goes on the bike, take your piston, make sure it's pointed the right way as well, and then we're going to flip the cylinder over just like that. Alright, so this is crucial so that way you have your valve reliefs lined up properly. So as you can see, I have the piston in the cylinder oriented as if it was in the engine like this. So when you flip it over, everything will still align. So I'm going to install the piston now just like this. And I kind of rock it like that. And then I'll rock the piston back this way. So that way the ends of the oil ring are now facing that way. And it should slide right on in. Nice and easy. I've done this a few times, so it probably looks a lot easier. There we go. Cool. Now, slide the piston up just enough so that the wrist pin can slide freely back and forth, just like that. I'll leave that in there just for now. But you can see the intake valve reliefs are towards the back where they need to be. So now when you put the gasket on, this is what I always do. I always put just a tiny bit of gray RTV, not black or red or anything like that. Always use gray on this kind of stuff. So you see, this is the high torque gray RTV that I'm putting in there. Your gasket can go on just like so. Make sure you don't forget any alignment dowels. I did buy new alignment dowels for this, but these ones seem like they're in pretty good shape. So like I said, I didn't bother trying to pull them out or anything like that. Make sure that seat's in there pretty good. And then you're gonna have a little bit of RTV, gray RTV squeezing out, or high torque RTV is what it is. And there is no O-ring or anything that goes here. It's just like that. So now you can see how I have all this like that. And the circlip is installed on one side. I was meaning to install it circlip on this side, so I wasn't fighting with the timing chain and the guide and everything, but that's all right. I can get it like this. So the reason I did the piston installed like this first is because when it's on there, it's kind of a pain in the ass, and this makes it 10 times easier. So what you do is go like this, get that aligned, take your wrist pin, get it in there, and you can let this kind of rest on it, as long as you don't let the piston slide into the cylinder. Just like that. That slid in nicely. And then what I like to do is take a shirt or a rag or paper towels or something, put it in like this. So that way, you see what I'm doing here is blocking. So if I drop the circlip, it does not go into the engine, because that's a pain in the ass to get it out. And the idea is not to go over here and try to pry it in, because otherwise it's going to be an absolute pain. So what I do is I hold it like this with my thumb, and I will push in the circumference as I go around. It's hard to do this with the camera in my way and not having light where I need it, but you see how I'm doing that. Now it just popped into its place, and of course always double check that. But you can see how I got that circlip in there nicely, and it really wasn't that hard. I see people fighting with them all the time, and what they do is they'll try to, like I said, they'll put it in on this side and they'll take a screwdriver or something and try to push it in and snap it in. And the best way to do is just hold it on one side and just walk it in with the tip of a screwdriver. You can even do it with both fingers if you have good calloused thumbs. To go down, get it to go in just like that. There we go. And then you can go on to moving, then you can go on to putting your head on.